Money Arata. Would you rather be rich or happy? Now, before answering, notice how this question in itself is a false premise. Money and happiness are not mutually exclusive. On the one hand, it is understandable to think of money and happiness as opposing ideas. For example, imagine two extreme paths that you can take. Number one, being a saver who collects every penny, never allowing yourself to have any fun with your own money. And number two, being a compulsive spender who simply wants to enjoy life today, never putting aside any money for the future. I don't think your life has to reach any of these extremes. The opposition between money and happiness is a concept that has been taught to us since we were children. You can recall stories and drawings, movies in which the rich people were always mean, unhappy, while the poorer people were kinder and happier. And this kind of idea generates an inner conflict that you don't even realize. Like, on the one hand, you want to be rich, capable of fulfilling all your dreams that need money to be attained. And on the other hand, you don't want to become someone whom you basically despise. Therefore, in this conversation today, we're going to understand how you can resolve this internal conflict, possessing both wealth and happiness simultaneously. This is not financial advice. Please read the full disclaimer before proceeding. Money may not buy you happiness, but the lack of it prevents you from having a fulfilling life. You may have heard the phrase that money doesn't buy you happiness. Well, you can't buy happiness at the store or expecting a new car or a new cell phone to be providing you with everlasting contentment. Merely having money in these cases is no guarantee of happiness. Now, try to be happy when you have an unbearable toothache and you can't afford a reliable dentist. Or try to be happy after seeing your father, your mother, your child with nothing to eat, unable to financially support your family. Not having money in these cases is a guarantee of unhappiness. So if it is true that happiness cannot be bought, it is also true that you cannot have a full life without the money to pay for your basic health and food and housing costs. In the episode 252 of the series Hello, Sage Arata, we saw how a life of minimalist consumption is not a solution either. You can indeed reduce your consumption and simplify your life, but there is a limit to that. Deep down we know all of this. And even so, our minds replay a series of financial taboos that link money to something unpleasant, like having to choose between following your passion or following the money, or viewing the rich as people who exploit others for even more wealth. And these ideas are very old. You can find the archetype of the greedy, unhappy rich man in basically every culture, religion, and era. It becomes so ingrained in our minds that we unconsciously refrain from becoming that miserable person ourselves. And now this is where the idea of saying, I'd rather be happy than rich. That's where it comes from. We envision a bucolic image of a country life without consumer culture, being detached, living like a hermit on top of a mountain with only a rag, a cloak, meditating all day long. It is an image of happiness without consumer goods, without consumerism. We like the idealization of living only for our purpose without giving so much value to money. We like feeling free from social pressures and status and consumer desires. Now, the problem with all of this is when the idealization collides with real life. When you start having difficulties, when you can't provide for your family. At these times, you would like to go back and actually have more money in your bank account, but often it is too late. The conflict between capital and labor is not the same for everyone. For you, being rich, maybe it can be a matter of choice. The notion that the rich are evil exploiters of the poor is not only present in stories and movies. These ideas are also part of academic study. A scholar who studied the relationship between capital and labor in the 19th century, Karl Marx, supported the concept of societal progression through the class struggle. And this struggle is the conflict between a social class that controls the means of production, and the working class that provides the labor for production. Now, in this conflict, the controllers of the means of production enrich themselves by exploiting the work of the poorest, pocketing the difference between what the worker produces and what the worker receives as a salary. Now, we're not here to be arguing about whether Marx's ideas are right or wrong. That is absolutely not the mission of our conversation today. Thousands of academics around the world has been discussing this for over a century with all types of conclusions. Now, what I want to draw your attention to are two specific points. Number one, the time when these ideas were developed. And number two, who they were created for. At the time, there was a very clear division between factory owners and the workers. And the workers studied were mainly those who lived in the 19th century Europe. Now, this means that the conflict between capital and labor is not the same for everybody. Unfortunately, society is unfair. Some are born with more privileges and others are born with fewer. Societal progression is possible according to your merits, but that opportunity is not equal for everybody. People who were born very poor and without opportunities will hardly be able to get out of that situation, except in very rare cases. With that being said, those who are born with fewer opportunities today are much more likely to progress than it used to be in the past. Today, even a person with relatively few privileges has access to what once would be considered means of production. With a cell phone and an internet connection, you can offer your services. You can sell different types of digital products. You can explore other ways to earn money. And this conversation, this video was not produced for people who are in the absolute poverty because they won't have access to this video. This video is produced for those of you who have access to electricity, internet connection, computers, or a cell phone. Another important aspect is having enough time to dedicate yourself to your own personal development. So in your case, there are strong indications that you do have the opportunity and the privilege to progress upward in a social ladder, to earn more money, to choose to get rich. Yes, for people in your condition, wealth can be a choice. To choose to get rich, you must free yourself from the financial taboos that link money and happiness. From this point on, we'll assume that you do have the opportunity and the privilege to strive toward a life of abundance. You have free time, you have some equipment, you have the interest in getting richer. Now, this doesn't mean that you'll become a millionaire or billionaire very soon, but you can be much richer than what you are today. And what is missing for that? A decision. Deciding. Deciding means cutting out any other possibility. If you want to get rich, you need to decide to make more money. And for that, the first step is often a change in the mindset. You don't want to become a person whom you despise, obviously. In order to get rich, first you need to eliminate from your mind this idea that the rich are evil, unhappy people who only make money through exploiting the work of others. This also means eliminating the false idea that relates money and happiness. You can be poor and happy, but you can also be poor and unhappy. You can be rich and happy, or rich and unhappy. As a rule, one thing has nothing to do with the other. Now, the exception is when money is so limited that it doesn't even cover for your most basic expenses, your basic needs. When the level of poverty is so extreme, there are other priorities that are more essential, and happiness often gets the backseat. And many people see this idea of changing the mindset like some conversation from coaches or financial gurus. See, just a mere change in thinking will not directly fill your pockets. Please don't fall to the idea that there is some magic spell or positive thinking that will attract money into your wallet without any effort. That's absolutely not the case. Changing your mindset is just the first step, an essential step, but still the first step. You still need to find practical ways to make more money in your real life. You can negotiate a salary increase. You can look for a better paying job. You can create a side hustle while you still keep your main one. You can offer your services as a freelancer. You can sell products on the internet. You can make all of this to, start money coming to your bank account. And then there are still many other possibilities to make that money multiply, such as investing in fixed income and bonds and real estate and stocks and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. All of this will only be possible if you first unlink the relationship between money and happiness in your mind. The false relationship between money and happiness could be undermining your chances of getting rich. For people like you who have the time and the conditions to access the internet, being rich is a matter of choice. And that choice starts with the decision to let go of the mindset that links rich people with evil. This is just one of the many money taboos that hinder your financial enrichment. And to meet others, you can watch a special class on money taboos right now by going to the address arata.se/money taboo.